So here's a little conundrum for you. Honda's entry crossover, the HR-V, versus their next up the line family crossover, the CR-V. Which is most worth your money? How well do each of their engines use your gas dollars? Which one's the roomiest? How do they compare on physical size? And just how much more cargo space do you get for the extra spend on the bigger CR-V? And how much bigger actually is it? Well, I've got all of that coming up for you right now. So full pricing up on your screen, and there is a big step up for the CR-V, and since a lot of you are asking about comparing these two machines in particular, I think it makes sense that some shoppers are probably wondering how they stack up and whether the CR-V is worth the extra spend, and if that sounds like you, well, you're in the right place. For a base model unit with front-wheel drive, the CR-V is a roughly $6,100 Canadian dollars step up in asking price from the HR-V, with entry all-wheel drive trim grades resulting in a roughly $6,700 gap in starting prices. And for fully loaded models, which include all-wheel drive, the gap remains between $6,000 and $7,000. The CR-V is also available in a hybrid, but this pushes the asking price well towards $50,000 Canadian dollars, and that's a $12,000 step beyond a fully loaded HR-V. I'll be showing you some footage of the CR-V hybrid in this video. It's fun to watch in the snow. It's this red machine, but again, just mind that price gap. So let's take a peek under the hood and size these machines up. The smaller HR-V has a 2-liter 158 horsepower 4-cylinder, non-turbo, non-hybrid, and you get 138 pounds of torque, a CVT gearbox, and this is a fairly leisurely power plant. If you've got a lead foot, you're best to look elsewhere. The CR-V runs a 1.5-liter turbo 4-cylinder that steps it up to 190 horsepower and 179 pounds of torque. Note that big advantage in torque means a more responsive drive, especially in around town and commuter driving. That's the CR-V with 32 more horsepower and 41 more pounds of torque. Advantages over the HR-V of 20 and 30% respectively. So you might say the CR-V costs 20% more than the 20% less powerful HR-V. By the way, the CR-V can tow 1,500 pounds, and the HR-V is not rated for towing.
So we are on a set of Blizzak WS90 winter tires. If you're looking for a recommendation on a winter tire for your HR-V, I don't think you'll be disappointed with these. I've been driving through a lot of snow, a lot of slush, ice, and particularly hard pack surfaces like we're on today. And man, can you ever lean on these things. 60 kilometers an hour, full ABS stop. Nice bite, getting a little bit of a shove out of my seat there. That is exactly the kind of stopping power that you want when you're driving on a surface like this.
And if you want a recommendation from the heart of Northern Ontario, I did pay my own dollars for a set of these on my own car just this past winter. They are very good.
So road test coming up for you a little later in this video, but a couple of things I want to show you first.
The CR-V is 5 inches or 12.9 centimeters longer than the Honda HR-V, a difference of 3%. On width, the HR-V is 1.1 inches wider, that's 2.8 centimeters if you like. A difference of 1.5%, this is virtually a tie. The CR-V stands a full 3.1 inches or 7.9 centimeters taller than the HR-V, making the CR-V just about 5% taller. And on wheelbase, it's the CR-V coming in at 1.8 inches, or 4.6 centimeters longer than the HR-V. That's 2% more wheelbase for the CR-V, and when it comes to ground clearance, it's a 1.2-inch advantage for the CR-V. That's 3 centimeters or 14% more ground clearance than the HR-V. Keep that in mind if you'll frequently be driving in the winter or in rough road or off-road settings. But how does that all stack up when it comes to interior space and passenger room? On front headroom, the CR-V takes the win by 0.6 of an inch or 1.5 centimeters. That's 1.5% more front headroom for the CR-V. On rear headroom, the CR-V wins by a hair or two. There's less than a quarter inch more rear headroom than the HR-V. It's virtually a tie, but technically a win. On shoulder room, it's 2.3% more in the front seats of the wider CR-V, and 1.3% more shoulder room in the rear seats for the CR-V versus the HR-V as well. Interesting about the legroom though, while the smaller HR-V actually has a half-inch more front legroom than the CR-V, it has 3.3 inches less rear legroom than the larger CR-V, making that a nearly 9% advantage in rear legroom.
All right, so my comfortable seated driving position as a 5'10", 200-pound guy. Here's what's going on around me in terms of space. I have about the width of my hand above me with that sunroof there in terms of headroom. Nothing's particularly cramped or crowded in terms of knee or leg room here. Plenty of at-hand storage. We've got proper cup holders, wireless charging pad there. Of course, that handy center console. Storage cubbies in the door here as well as underneath. So pardon the ridiculous camera angle so I can help you visualize here how much room is around me. Normally camera guy James is shooting this, he's off today. So here's a sense of space around me here. Now let's see how I would fit in the back directly behind myself. So first thing to show you hopping in here, this door doesn't open super wide, wide enough, but in some competitors this is going to go another couple of degrees back there, sort of opening up that space for you. It's a little head whack there. We've got a watch right here getting in. A little more of a duck. Now once I'm in and seated, the headroom is actually not too bad. Hard to see, but we've got the shape of the roof here. You see this shadow line probably a little bit lower here. That's for the hardware to do with the sunroof, and another probably 3/4 of an inch or so of headroom behind that. So again, at 5'10", sitting back here, I'm almost out of headroom, but not quite. So if you're much taller than me, you're probably gonna run out of headroom pretty quickly, but I don't have any complaints on leg and knee room here. Can see that more than the width of my hand, almost probably 1.5, almost 2 hand widths in front of me there in terms of knee room back here. Plenty of arm room, plenty of thigh room. So as long as your passengers sitting back here are of average height or less, and they're a bit careful with their head coming in through the door here, they're gonna be just fine. So a couple of other details for you on this interior and a little bit of a lay of the land here. Start with the drive mode selector here, just toggle up and down. And your choice is referenced by some sound effects as well as the animations up here on the screen. So we've got Sport, Normal, Econ, and Snow mode. Also downhill assist control there if we need it. Brake hold here, which means that once you bring the vehicle to a stop, you can take your foot off of the brake pedal and it will not roll forward again until you touch the gas pedal. Do a little glove test here for you. Infotainment system, let's see. Does not look like that's going to work with my gloves on. These are not touchscreen compatible gloves here, so if you've got a set of these on, you're not going to be able to work that touchscreen. Climate control very easy though, because we've just got these 3 simple dials here. Those are very, very easy to just work with your gloves on if you like. That central command screen, not quite so much. We do have the hard buttons here on the outside, which will work with your gloves, but the rest of the screen will not. Very handy touch here, backup camera squirter. Check this out. So in reverse, we've got the backup camera there. It's fairly clean at the moment, but if we want to give it a little spray, we just wash that rear window by rotating back on this. And you can see there, we've got a little washer fluid jet that's going to blast all the dirt and ice off of that camera and give us a really clear and wide rear view.
For cargo, it's 39.3 cubic feet of capacity with the seats up for the CR-V versus 24.4 cubic feet with the seats up for the HR-V. That's nearly 15 more cubic feet in the CR-V, an advantage of 38% when it comes to seats up cargo volume. With the seats folded, it's 55.1 cubic feet of cargo capacity from the HR-V and 76.5 from the CR-V. That's 21.4 more cubic feet of seats up cargo space in the CR-V, an advantage of 28%.
Okay, so quick check of the cargo area here for you. A couple of things I want to draw your attention to. So power tailgate, of course. There's your button there with a handle next to it if you need it. You can see the cargo load-in height here is roughly knee height for someone of my size. We've got the accessory cargo tray here, but what I want to draw your attention to is there is no grip on the bottom of this, right? That's fairly slippery. So you may want to put something grippy between that carpeted surface there and this plastic here, because this does move around fairly easily. Second thing, as tall as this cargo opening is, there are a couple of things that chew up the space a little bit. And draw your attention up here. We've got this sort of hump up there for the seatbelt. So if you're loading in something that's very, very tall, pretty much right up to the top here, you do have to watch that, because this will chew up some of the space that you can use. Come back in around the side here, we can see that we've got basically flat folding rear seats. That's a completely flat surface there, which is handy. But notice this, right? We've got this sort of hump here. So while we've got the flat surface on the back of these 2 seats and another flat surface up there, we do have this hump in the middle. You are losing a bit of clearance because of that hump there, and also, again, a little bit of clearance because of that hump up in the ceiling for that seatbelt.
So that's how these two compare on space, size, and volume, but how well do they use your fuel dollars? Both the 158 horsepower Honda HR-V and 190 horsepower Honda CR-V run on regular grade gas. To drive 100 kilometers in an all-wheel drive equipped HR-V requires 8.7 liters of gas on average, that's about 27 miles per gallon if you like. And to drive 100 kilometers in an all-wheel drive equipped CR-V, on average you'll need 8.4 liters of gas, that's about 28 miles per gallon. So did you catch that? The CR-V makes 20% more horsepower and 30% more torque than the HR-V, but drinks about 4% less fuel to do it. So assuming you pay $1.50 for a liter of gas and drive 25,000 kilometers per year, that's an annual gas bill of $3,260 or $271 per month in the HR-V, and an annual gas bill of $3,150 from the CR-V. And so based on that math, you'll actually use about $10 per month less gas in the bigger and more powerful CR-V. Of course, the CR-V Hybrid uses less fuel and is more powerful than both of the other models I've been showing you here today. Driving it for 100 kilometers requires just 6.4 liters of gas, and that's an annual fuel bill of $2,400 or $200 a month, though of course the price to entry is much, much higher.
This might be the first time in the history of us shooting how many hundreds and hundreds of episodes?
It's like, what, 14, 15 years of this now?
Yeah, like it's 800 or 900 episodes. Anyways, here's a look at the conditions outside.
It doesn't look horrible, but for a camera, I can see 50 feet.
Yeah, so we're just...
you can't see nothing. It looks like it's a whiteout.
You guys can see. Yeah, let's open the door there. There's nothing. The visibility is so bad. So first time we've actually had a shoot cut short by the weather. The car was no problem, but for the camera gear and the camera operator, and for the driver who's pretty snowblind, and this is getting a little bit risky.
So which one would I buy? Now this is where I toss the numbers aside and give you my own more personal take on deciding between these machines, after thousands of kilometers of testing, and winter testing in this case for a lot of the drive. If you're making this comparison and you drive in a northern climate, one of the most important things to know is that both of these machines are great to drive in the snow. The CR-V's all-wheel drive system and snappier engine inject some fun factor into the snowy back roads, while the all-wheel drive system is on the ball, and in the HR-V, the less powerful engine and what I'd call the more backroads friendly ride of the pair results in a less exciting drive overall, but the ride, handling, braking, and response from the HR-V are very good on snow and ice too. I think it just needs a few more horsepower, especially to justify drinking more than its big brother. But personally, it's the CR-V for me. More space, more room, more power, a little bit of towing versus none at all, and all in a package that I think you'll agree is the far more handsome looker of this pair too. For the full road test reports on both machines, click the link in the description below if you're watching on YouTube, and be sure to leave me a like and comment while you're down there. And maybe let your fellow drivers know what you'd spend your own money on, and we'll see you in the next video.
Well, thank you for watching. I'm Justin Pritchard, and until next time, take care and drive safe.